Can you run starting strength linear progression by yourself? Of course you can. So this was a question I got asked at the camp, and I thought it might be valuable to share it here. If you don't know by now, I'm a starting strength coach, and the program is very simple. You squat 3 days a week, alternate press and bench, and you deadlift every session. Everything is 3 sets of 5, except the deadlift. That is 1 set of 5. You come into the gym 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the traditional, but you can do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever your split is. And the point is you add weight to the bar every time. So the conservative approach is like 2.5 kilos. Maybe if you're quite athletic and strong, especially on the deadlift, you could probably go 10 kilos, maybe even more per workout at first for a couple weeks. But most of you are all going to slow down into doing 2.5 kilo jumps on all the lifts, and you keep running it up until you can't no more. That is the premise of starting strength linear progression, meaning linear because the weights literally drive up in a linear fashion. So again, of course, the actual program itself is really very simple, and that is the whole appeal to the program. Especially for someone who's new to training, they need to do the same lifts for practice because the skill of the lifts is so detrained. They just get stronger just by showing up and doing the lifts 3 days a week. The fact we're adding weight to the bar is a bonus. So, of course, the program can be executed. The issue is the mistakes, the movement pattern problems. When you do stall out, where do you go from here? Are you going to move to triples on the press? Have you got the setup of the deadlift wrong because your hips are too low? Are you pissing off your knees because you're doing really aggressive bounce in the bottom of the squat, so it's causing knee slide? Especially if you're not filming your lifts and you don't have a coach, you're just a newbie lifter who doesn't know his ass from his elbow. These are the reasons you're going to hire a coach, is because you don't know any of these problems, how to fix them. You probably won't even know they're happening. That's how under the radar and clueless you are. And that's okay. If you think of any new endeavor, if you're trying to do anything for the first time, most of the time you get a teacher. So why wouldn't this be any different? So something that I come back to time and time again, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, is most problems from training result from the triangle: form, programming, recovery. Most of the time, for most people who are starting novice SSLP, that's what we call it in short, most people have a form issue, maybe even a recovery issue. You're not eating enough protein, 200 grams a day, check that video out. Or you're not sleeping enough, you need to probably sleep 8 hours a day, or at least improve your quality of sleep with what you have currently. So 9 times out of 10, it's usually a form problem because the weight increase is happening 7.5 kilos every week. So that speed and that pace of lifting is quite aggressive. And if you're new to lifting, things can go off the handlebar very quickly. If a subtle knee slide then becomes literally you're like raising your heels off the floor, that's how much you're like bouncing into your knees and causing like an aggressive knee slide. And then 2-3 months later, you've got a tendinopathy kind of issue. So then you're like, what happened? And that's what happened. It was that subtle thing which went under the radar that you had no clue. You were just chasing weight on the bar and not really paying attention to your form. Of course, you can spend a lot of free time getting your videos checked on the forums. You can study the books and all the YouTube videos and all the media that Starting Strength provide. You can get an online coach. You can get a personal training session. You can go to an affiliate. You can go to a franchise gym. You can become a member of a franchise gym or an affiliate. All of those things are going to help. And this is from my personal experience. There is probably a handful of clients, maybe 5 or less, in my whole career of coaching, that when I saw them for the first time and we just did a tune-up of their lifts, they had no technical errors. And again, this is technical errors now, because almost like stargazing, looking up at the sky, you're actually seeing old news. So in 2 years from now, that might be very different. So again, it is the exception, not the rule, if you have no technical errors. And then it boils down to, are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Is your program locked in? Are you following the stress recovery adaptation cycle for each lift? Because every lift has a different cadence of stress recovery adaptation. So for example, a press might need more frequency, or a deadlift might need less frequency, more intensity, so on and so on. So each lift kind of has their own cycle. And again, you might actually be someone who needs more frequency. I can't tell just by saying ad hominem, like boom, blanket statement, everyone who deadlifts is going to do rack pulls eventually. That might not be you. You might not need close grip bench press or paused squats. We can just maybe lift all the lifts with no technical needs for specialization. You may never touch a safety bar squat or, dumbbells. For whatever reason, some of these things might come in and out of your program, because as you get more advanced into programming, as weight on the bar slows down, that's how we define you as being more intermediate. All these factors come into play. Or you might be someone who doesn't need any variations and just do the lifts as written in the blue book. I can't say that, because programming is not templates. Programming after starting strength linear progression is highly individual. And anyone who says otherwise is talking bull. So if you like this video, comment, like, share, subscribe, you know the deal. I'm Carl Ragavan, Europe's original starting strength coach. That's beautiful strength. Remember, the barbell never lies.